This is a follow-up video to the one that I did last, and it was titled Wake Up, and it was addressing the Americans. And this, again, it's still addressing the Americans because there's something more to be said. You've been brainwashed for decades to think that you are from the greatest country in the world, and you are not. And you have nothing to prove that you are the greatest country in the world. Please, if you can prove to us that you are the greatest country in the world, comment down below. But I'm confident that the comment section is going to remain empty because you have nothing. And I say this as nicely as I can possibly say it. I have traveled a bit in my life, and I remember even in the 90s, backpackers, people that were traveling throughout Europe, that were American, they would put labels on their suitcases or on their backpacks that had the Canadian flag on it. And why is that? Because they knew that Americans are not liked. They knew that Americans are disliked. They knew that the general idea that people have about Americans is that they're arrogant and rude. But that's just, superficially what they knew about Americans. Now, I'm a big proponent on not judging people just by a small group on what they do. However, there's over 350 million of you in the United States. And your Constitution was created for these kind of circumstances, not to allow them to happen. But your country has been in perpetual war since World War I. In fact, the Economy Geopolitical Report says, and many other publications, they say that since 1991, the Americans, or America, has been in perpetual military interventions. Over 251 military interventions. First of all, that's true. But second of all, what a laugh that they're calling them military interventions simply because the U.S. didn't formally announce them as wars or that they're going to war with another country. But they have committed atrocities. They've paid for atrocities. They've committed coups. They've destabilized the world over. South America, Asia, Africa, and even as recently as Eastern Europe in the Ukraine. And there's a reason why people are flocking to the U.S., the land of the home and the brave, to go and find a better place to live, because that's one of the few places in the world that's not getting bombed or destabilized. Okay? And so those people that are going there, they've also bought into the idea that this is the home of the free and the brave, even though it isn't true at all. And on top of that, you have been brainwashed into resenting those people that are coming to your countries and labeling them as migrants, immigrants, because that's how they conquer and divide. They divide and conquer. Okay? They divide and conquer and make everybody fight amongst themselves. And you've bought into that also. You've bought into the idea that you are the home of the free and the brave, even though you're not. Show me a country, comment down below, at least one country that the U.S. has military intervened in that actually has anything positive going on right now. Show me one country where the U.S. has gone in to give them democracy or security, and they are for the better for it. Please show me a country. There isn't one. You're not going to find one, because that's not what the U.S. is all about. They're into brainwashing the people so they could take their tax-paying dollars, their hard-earned money, and funneling them off into destabilizing governments, into destabilizing actual democracies, because they don't subscribe to the same ideologies as America, and they can sanction them. They can take away their food programs. Of course, they are the majority funders of the UN, so they don't have any. The UN doesn't have any power because the US isn't allowed to have any power. It will probably only have power when the US allows it to. And somebody proposed the idea that we should push the idea forward to get the UN to take out the US from the UN altogether. And I think that's a great idea. We should remove the US from the UN table, and the UN should move back to Europe or Africa or Asia and other places in the world that do have an actual democracy, that don't brainwash their people the way the US has brainwashed their people, and they've brainwashed the world. But don't take my word for it on what I have said so far. that the U.S. has been in perpetual military intervention since World War I without actually calling it war. But look it up. Look it up for yourselves. Don't resent the people that have actually bought into the idea of coming to the country of the free and the brave, where anybody can make a place for themselves. Don't resent those people because you've bought into that idea, and now you want to resent those people because they're coming here for that. Also, they're not getting bombed in your country, right? They might be dying from, random shootings or the opioid crisis. They might be dying from those things, but they are not dying from perpetual bombing in their own country. That's why they're coming to your country. That's why they're going into Europe, because Europe and the US are like this when it comes to bombing other countries, destabilizing them, and stealing their resources. Stop being asleep on the wheel. Wake up and do something about it. Your Constitution was created for this purpose alone, so that you will not allow a government like this to be in control. Wake up.